Welcome
What
back,
up,
partner.
dog? Hey, what's happening?
I can't see you. You're
You
just
can't.
a face.
What? What? What the fuck are you saying?
The camouflage. I can't see you.
Oh, I blend into. Yeah, man. I'm just.
You're just
Nothing from here. Nothing from here. I'm just
you're
a face in a
you're hot.
chain. I'm an ops,
Oh,
man. I like the beanie. That's
just do
pretty
the
dope.
oh yeah, I just it we had like a whole blizzard. We got like 8 inches of snow
You
as soon
got a
as I got
whole
back from working.
you got a whole blizzard, huh? Not you didn't get any of those half blizzards.
No, they've been like saying that we're gonna get all the snow and then it's just like a dusting, but this was like some actual snow, which is wild. So
Nice,
yeah, I
nice.
just came in from it. How are you feeling?
Today I'm feeling, I'm feeling a little silly and wild, because I haven't taken my medication for 2 days.
Why?
Because I just need,
Why?
because I need energy, man. You have no idea how frustrating this is.
Mm,
Dealing with anemia and just being fatigued all the goddamn time.
yeah.
I'm so tired, and it just drags on. This has been dragging on for months. And so, I spice things up about once a week where I just don't take my medication for 2 days, just so I can. I swear to God, it's. I know it sounds silly, but I'm not doing it to be silly. I'm doing it because if I don't, I'm going to. I get suicidal, man. I've been getting suicidal. I've been getting, if I'm being honest, if I'm being real, I've been getting suicidal. I've been getting like really down and just wanting to like use stimulants.
Yeah.
I think about just anything I can get my hands on just to feel better. I just want to feel better, and it's crazy making because people don't really understand, like they're
Yeah.
they're like anemia, like what the fuck is that? Although I will say most women understand it immediately.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, I say anemia, and a woman's like, oh, god damn, I'm so sorry. You say it to a guy, and they're like, does that mean you have a pussy now? Or I'm sorry,
Are you on your period?
does that mean you have a vagina now?
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to like help people understand. Like, no, I'm not mad. I'm not angry at you. I'm not sad. I'm just
Yeah.
really tired, and right now I'm really irritable. It has nothing to do with you. I'm pissed off because I can't believe
Yo,
how
you just said
tired.
irritable. You just said irritable the way dad says it. You just
um,
said irritable.
it's
That's
just
exactly how dad says it. Irritable.
it's
Hmm.
just well, I don't like that, so don't say that.
Just like dad.
um,
Yeah, that's
like
interesting, Dave.
it's just, like I get it now. When women are irritable and just like tired all the time and they're pissed off and they don't really have a reason to be pissed off. Like I get it.
Irritable. Yeah.
Like I'm pissed off and I don't have a reason to be pissed off, but I'm sad and tired and angry all at the same time. And it's just like, what the fuck, man? My mind is just trying to jump through hoops, trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
I wish your doctors would figure it out. It is really crazy. Anemia is like one of the most common things when a woman goes into the doctor and she's experiencing like really profound depression or anxiety, they have found there's a really strong probability that she's anemic, because it
Yeah,
affects your mental health incredibly because you're not getting your blood isn't oxygenated, so
I know.
you're just everything is like I feel like the medical world even in our society is like, oh, you're anemic, like it's having a very minor inconvenience, like it affects you so tremendously,
It
the brain
does.
fog.
It's not a minor inconvenience. Yeah, you're right. People kind of just dismiss it, like, oh, it could be that
It's
bad.
like a woman's problem. Yeah.
Or even just even if they know what it is, they're like, well, it's just anemia. It's like whatever. But
Unless you've experienced it, you don't know.
dude, it is brutal, man.
Hmm. I always
And
explain it. It feels like if your body has energy, it's like, and your body's a bathtub, it's like someone has pulled the plug and drained it. Like
yeah,
you are drained of all energy. It is like I can, when I'm anemic, I can feel it like in my eyes almost. Like it feels like like everything is drained from me. Like it's impossible to, I mean, you just get through the day. That's all you can do is just try and get to bed.
I
Right? Is
know.
that how you
And,
feel? Yeah.
yes, and that's been going on for like 3 months. And
Mm,
the first month and a half, I thought I was depressed. I was like, this is just depression. This is my depression. This is what I go through.
yeah,
And then it just kept going, and I was like, no, this is something else. This is like
yeah.
this is way bigger than that. And now, at least now I have a diagnosis, but now I have to get a gastroenterologist to look into my tummy, figure out what the hell's
Your
going
Tums.
on.
Yeah, it's crazy that they can't. Like for me, um, well, it's also genetic. South Pacific Islanders have a propensity for anemia, but also, yeah, they usually, with me, it's my kidneys. My kidneys are, that means I have a kidney infection, my kidney is bleeding, or I'm on my period.
Yeah,
Um, but the fact that they haven't been able to nail down, I mean, obviously you're bleeding internally somewhere. That's where
yeah.
anemia is.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, they've nailed down that it's anemia,
Yeah.
and
They just don't know
and
what's causing it.
they just don't know what's causing it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I got to see a specialist. I haven't seen a specialist yet. So
Yeah, it's intense. I hope they figure it out because it does really affect you. It's crazy. I mean, it's good to see you in good spirits. It's pretty funny that it's because you're jacking with your mental health. But
it's like biohacking, man. That I've taken these medications for so long. I know exactly how I react if I don't
yeah.
take them. Like if I mess with the dosages, or if I don't take them for a day or two, like this is like I'm a little giddy today. And it's because I haven't taken my medication, my antidepressant for like it's weird, man. It's just weird how medications, biohacking and all that. Um, yeah. So that's my life the last couple of
Nice.
weeks. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sounds fun. Sounds like a great time.
Ah, it's not. It's not. Um, hey, why don't they make side? Why do they make sidewalks?
Why do they make sidewalks?
Why do they make sidewalks?
I don't know.
Because the motherfucking streets ain't for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. That's why you got on your streetwear. You're built for the streets,
I'm
man.
built from the streets. I was born on the streets.
The streets raised me.
Streets raised me, son. I'm hard. I'm
Little,
hard.
yeah, McMinnville, Oregon doesn't get harder than that.
Yeah, man. Freaking just white people everywhere, just clowning on all the browns and shit. So much racism that I had to live with in my life.
Stop.
You
You don't even want to know the stuff I
don't
had to
even
put up
want to know,
with.
bro. You don't even want to know people mixing up my fucking identity, telling me I'm white.
It
I had
telling
to.
me I'm white. You want to talk about racism?
When they look at you and they say you're white, bro, and I'm like, nah, I'm Pacific Islander, homie.
I'm. They're like, well, you look white. Like that hurt me.
That hurts my soul, son. You know what that's like? Having to
You can't
explain.
even imagine.
You don't even know, bro, until you've been there.
Marginalized as fuck. We're so stupid. Oh my god.
Uh,
Our parents must be so proud of us.
so it's Black History Month, and we're here at the center. We're doing Black History like films all throughout the month, and I watched a documentary on Netflix last week called Amend. It's about the 14th Amendment, which guarantees the right to citizenship through birth. It's a very important amendment. I just learned about it because basically by guaranteeing citizenship, you are then guaranteed to the rights and the laws of the land.
Yeah.
It's like one of the most important amendments. And the reason it's so important is because, well, at least for black people, was when they were slaves, in that period between slavery and civil war and not being slaves, people didn't want them to be, they still didn't have access to the rights
Yeah.
and the legal system. Like they weren't considered citizens. So
Yeah.
by passing the 14th Amendment and guaranteeing them citizenship through birth in America, they were then given all the rights of a citizen in our country. And it's a really important, anyways. Um, that's what I just wanted to say that because it is Black History Month, and it's really interesting just learning about something that most people don't, you don't ever, I mean, I've never heard, I know of the 14th Amendment, but I've never considered how important it is, like it's just because you're in this land doesn't mean you're guaranteed the rights, that this land offers. And being a citizen is how you get access to those rights. Um, it's wild.
That was a wild segue. I was waiting for you to like the whole time. I was like, where are you going with this? Are you about to
No,
make a
no,
joke?
no.
No,
There's
that
no
was
joke. There's no joke. It's just something
it's just
this
hearing
is something
hearing
I
about it.
learned. Something I
Yeah,
learned a week ago, and as we delve into Black History Month, I thought it was an interesting thing
it's super
to
interesting.
yeah. And
Yeah,
it's also because of everything that's going on in our country right now with citizens. What makes a citizen?
and
Are they?
DACA and all of that stuff. Yeah,
And 14th Amendment guarantees people the rights of freedom of speech and all of that guarantees our rights. So
yep.
it is important. Citizenship is important.
Citizenship is important. It's also important that we don't abuse that amendment and use it as this like uh this thing that we can give and take away at whim.
Yeah, yeah,
Because that's really terrifying to think that you're protected as a citizen, like with DACA, and then to have a president come in and be like, nah, and now
yeah, yeah.
it can be your,
And now you no longer have you're not a citizen, so you're not guaranteed anything. So they
yeah,
have
you're not
that.
protected.
And now that
Hmm.
gives them the right to deport you, to do whatever they want with you, to put you in a friggin' concentration camp.
Yeah, yeah, and it
Yeah,
puts your I mean, yeah, it's an intense thing. Citizenship is really intense. Yeah, Black history is really fascinating because we have been given a very whitewashed version of it and like the truth of what we've done in this country is just wild. I've learned a lot of it since I've been here, and it's so uncomfortable. There's a part of you that wants to be like, okay, like, but do we have to? But like, no, it's important to know all the stuff.
it is important, man.
Mhm.
Yeah, keep going, keep going.
Just like I didn't, I've always heard about. I've always thought it's kind of funny that like the doctor who is like heralded as the founder of gynecology is a dude. But
Hmm.
have you heard this story?
Uh-uh.
This dude, he is called the father of gynecology, but he made his like breakthroughs and had his medical revelations by so slave owners would rape and assault the women slaves. A lot of them would get pregnant or they would end up unable to have children because they were so heinously violated. So then they would give these women to this doctor to test his procedures on. And so he never technically purchased a slave, he was given them. And because they were slaves, he believed that black people don't feel pain the same way white people did. So he didn't give them a single painkiller. And he did insane testing and actual medical procedures. Sometimes the same woman would have to endure up to like 9 different procedures where she's being cut open and sewed up and tested. And he didn't care because they were black and it didn't matter. And then once he perfected his technique, then they started performing it on white women, where he immediately administered anesthesia and pain relief because he knew that it was a horribly painful procedure that he was doing. He just didn't care that the black women were in horrible, horrible pain. And this man has been treated as like a martyr, because he led this like groundbreaking. I mean, when I learned about it the first time, they didn't tell us that part. It was like, he so graciously gave medical care to these enslaved women um, for free because he was so passionate about women's reproductive rights. No, he treated them like lab rats, and I didn't know that. There's like documented proof of it. Um, that's insane. That's insane that they taught us that the founder of this like incredible procedure, I can't remember what it is, that he was being like a saint and giving free healthcare to enslaved women, and he was literally being given these women like animals and then testing on them without painkillers, cutting them open, inserting things into their bodies, um, without they didn't have like that's insane, David. It's
Yeah,
crazy the way history
yeah.
has been so skewed to protect just white people, which is really an embarrassing thing as a country that we've participated in.
You
It's
know,
crazy.
it is crazy, and it's so sad. When people dehumanize humans, we devalue life. Well, not
Yeah.
we. I should say we, because that shit is fucked up. Um, you know, the assholes in life, the people with power who feel they
People
have
in
the right.
power, yeah. Hmm.
Because the Nazis did a lot of the pharmaceutical industry is built on the experiments Nazis did. Did you know that the reason we know humans are 70% water is because the Japanese during World War II, with I think it was Koreans or whoever the prisoners of war were, they would put them in ovens and bake them until the water evaporated. That's how we figured out that humans are 70% water. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
I don't know if you're supposed to say
It's
that.
the worst.
Yo!
It's the worst fucking thing ever.
I was like, how did they figure? Whoa! A human food
They would
dehydrator. That's what.
they would weigh them before and then weigh them afterwards after the water had evaporated. Sophie, I can't believe you're laughing at that.
It's so
That's so.
shocking. I like was like, did they drain them? Like, what? Oh my god! No, it's just so
It's
insane. I could not have predicted that.
it's just we've learned.
Yikes!
It's crazy what
Yikes!
yeah. In the documentary I was watching, a liberal Southern gentleman. He was changing. He had changed his views quite a bit, but he was like the way he was talking about the Negro or he actually
Oh,
he said it. He said it with a hard R.
oh,
He was like, yeah, back in the day, we considered them like a little bit above pets.
oh.
He's like, they weren't human, but they weren't like a dog. They were like in between. And it was just like that really was their mentality. It's fucking horrible,
It is horrible, but it's really interesting to think about because, I've heard some of the ways I've heard people talk about immigrants mimics that same mindset. It is a really dangerous thing to dehumanize people in your mind to justify your hatred of them because I mean, when you hear people really pissed off about immigrants, they talk about them like animals, like those people, this girl just released this voicemail from her grandma in Tennessee, and her grandma's like calling her. She's like, "I just hope you're safe. I was just reading about all um, the Venezuelans they've released in Tennessee. They're animals. They're raping people. And like you would have thought she was talking about like a rat infestation. She's talking about
man.
people,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and I've heard it, and I can feel it. I remember when people started talking about all the crimes, that Mexicans had committed. Back when I was still very Republican, I remember feeling like, yeah, you just kind of feel this disdain. You dehumanize them, and then it makes it really possible to just despise them and not care how they're treated. Like it is a scary thing that humans are capable of when it comes to dehumanizing our fellow man pretty quickly.
yeah, yeah. I have to say, with everything that's going on with Donald Trump president again, and just the rhetoric that's going around, I find myself a part of what I wanted to talk about this episode is honestly, man, I'm starting to go full liberal. You know, I when Joe Biden was president, I went kind of moderate. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I find, and the other thing that's really weird that's happened in the last 10 years is Donald Trump was such a shocker, right? He
Yeah.
blew people's minds that he could become president. That it kind of turned the world upside down, and you start to question, like maybe he's making some decent point. At least as far as I go, like
Yeah.
I started to reconsider. I was like, maybe and I do think there's some things. Okay, the liberals might have gone too far with certain things, ideologies. But I just find myself like. So I was talking to a good friend, and she was telling me, she's living with some older people in a rural area, and she was like, Dave, she's like, I'm getting so depressed. She's like, these old
Mm.
people, and she said, not just old. She's like, some of them are younger, like 40, 50, 30, 40,
Yeah.
50. She's like, and she's like, the other day they were just talking and they just kept dropping the N word, with a hard R.
Oh,
And they were like, yeah, those lazy N, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I can't be here. This is insane.
that's
She's like,
wild.
and like, and people always say, well, no, 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 it's not about racism. It's not about, the conservative Donald Trump movement it's not about racism. And, like, I know a lot of conservatives who aren't racist. And so but I think there is a large percentage. I'm not going to say the majority of conservatives. I'm not even going to say half. But there is a
Mhm.
large percentage of conservatives for who they might be hiding it. They might pretend, but I think there is an element of racism, just flat out, and they want to go back to a world where they can just drop N-words without fear or without shame, where they can dehumanize, Mexicans
Mhm.
and blacks and anyone. And honestly, I think they're just mad that a black man became president. I really
Yeah.
think that's what it is. I think Obama became president. You had the Tea Party and then you had Sarah Palin, and then you had Donald Trump. And I think a lot, not, a certain percentage, but a decent percentage. Here's the fucked up thing. A decent percentage of white people are genuinely angry that, colored people are making it in this world. And what the fuck? And I'm so tired of that bullshit, dude. I'm sick of it.
Mhm.
I just like, you know what? Fuck you, man. Like, what is
You know
wrong?
what I think it is? Yeah. I
What is,
think I think nationalism is the problem, because
yeah,
I do think you're right. I don't think a lot of I think most conservatives would say, "No, I'm not racist at all. I just want my America back." Well, what is your America? It's the one that didn't have immigrants in it. And
yeah.
and
Or,
that
or,
is the truth. They
or where
wouldn't
they,
say that.
or where the immigrants knew their place.
Where there wasn't so many and they
Yeah,
all stayed out of
yeah,
polite society and didn't
yeah,
want rights and didn't
yeah. Yeah,
push
they
as
work for $1 an hour. That's just the good
yeah,
old days.
stay in your field and don't, because I remember feeling, I mean, I remember that mindset and participating in it. Like, well,
Yeah,
you're so lucky that you're here. Why are you griping about how you're being treated? Then go back to Mexico. Like, that's a really fucked up way to approach things. And I did it and I felt really justified in it. And realizing now that's wrong. That's like if I were to help someone out, bring them into my home, and then treat them like shit and be like, well, I brought you here, that I did enough for you. Like, why are you complaining about how I'm treating you? I don't have to take you in. Like, that's
yeah,
a weird way to justify abuse. And because I remember feeling like that when, some of these children of like field workers started to speak up and say, my parents are being treated like animals. And I remember thinking, like, well, then go back to Mexico if you don't like it here. Like, that's a really, really entitled, gross way to to feel about anyone who came here from another country having any dissent. Like,
yeah,
dissent is patriotic. Maybe those people actually love this country so much that they expect the America that they revere to behave in a way that honors that ideology.
yeah.
That's it's not unpatriotic, or I don't know, because I remember being just like that. And it's a weird thing that we can do as conservatives to justify hating people who have a problem with the way America runs itself. Like, it's just strange. It's strange how I don't want to say I don't, yeah, it's interesting because I would never want to be classified as a liberal, but also not a Republican. Like,
No,
why is my like heart for immigrants and my like resistance to a very conservative idea, why does that make me a liberal? Why is that not just like a human movement or like pro
yeah,
America? Like for
yeah.
me that feels really American.
Or why is it not? Yeah, why isn't it just pro-human? Like, I'm surrounded by liberal people. I'm here in Portland, Oregon, one of the most liberal cities in America. The staff here at this recovery center are primarily liberal. There's some
Mm,
conservatives, and they're lovely
yeah.
people. All the people are lovely. You know what? The fucking the idea that I would never vote Democrat and Democrats are blah 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 and this and that and these liberals that I'm surrounded by, you know what, man? They're some of the most caring. They're caring for a bunch of dudes, who have
Mhm,
fucked up their life, right? We've messed up our
mhm,
lives, and through a variety of bad decisions and also just circumstance and trauma. And they are here helping us rebuild, man. And these women here who every day deal with our bullshit, and they put the
yeah.
and you know what? They're liberal, but so what? You know what? Their heart, man, their hearts are beautiful. And you can't convince me that, just because they vote Democrat and they vote blue and they're liberal, that, like they're somehow the enemy. Like, no, no, dude, I have more in common with like the staff work, the liberals. At this point, I have way more in common with the liberals than I do the conservatives. That's
Yeah.
that's just reality. And I love them so much, man. And you know what? I feel like this is the other part that's kind of scaring me is like where the world's going and just with Donald Trump doing his thing. I feel like a line is starting like
Yeah.
it's hard not to feel like we're gonna have to start drawing lines soon. And if we have to draw a line, I've been hesitant to, I've been wanting to be moderate because
Mm-hmm.
I try to take into account everybody's perspective, and I do think conservatives have some ideas that I do agree with, but
Mm-hmm.
if I have to draw a line, man, I'm standing with the liberals, man. That's just reality.
Yeah.
That's it. That's where I'm
Yeah, it's
standing because
interesting. Same. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day, like the switch that I've had from being really conservative to being pretty progressive. And realizing part of it is I might agree with some of these conservative ideas. Like, I'm trying to think. I'm not a big government person. I
Hmm.
think the government should be regulated and smaller.
Hmm.
But for me, just realizing my association with like any with conservative movements, if I do that, like and then someone who is really like an immigrant or an abused woman, or if they were to see my support of that, it would make them feel not safe with me. And
Yeah.
I think that is interesting. Like that is why I don't align myself my selves. Whoa, that was schizophrenic. That's why um, why I like, I'm trying to think of how to like tell this story without like putting anyone on blast. But there's someone that I love very much who has an all lives matter sign. And this person is very like progressive, not conservative. I mean,
Hmm.
kind of, but not but he was like, well, what's the problem with that? Well, first of all, his black friend is one who gave it to him. But I was like, my issue with that is if someone were to come into your home and see that, they would not, and they were, a black person who didn't know you, they would immediately not feel safe and they would be like, oh, you don't like me, or you're not,
Yeah.
it signals something. And what
Yeah.
is that? Why are all conservative, like, movement, what is the word I'm looking for, like anything that reflects a conservative idea, why does it make other people feel unsafe? Like Elle,
Yeah.
my best friend, and I were
Yeah.
talking about, if I were an immigrant, or if I was like out in the middle of nowhere and I was an immigrant and I was really lost in the middle of the night and I was like trying to figure out how to see who could help me, and I looked around at all the doors, the ones with the American flags and like Trump things in their yard, I wouldn't knock on the door. I'd be terrified of them. But the people who had like a Harris walls, picket in their lawn, I would be like, okay, those people are safe for me. Those people
Yeah.
are not. That's
Yeah.
my issue with conservative ideology. Why does it make people feel unsafe unless they agree with you? Like a
Yeah.
conservative who's just been really injured could go to a liberal's home and still be helped and safe. Well,
Yeah.
then I want to be with those. I want to align myself with the helpers and not the ones who are creating these lines of like that are love to other people. Um, I think that's my issue with conservatism is it makes really marginalized people feel afraid. And what is that
Yeah.
about? That's not American. I
Yeah.
don't like it.
It's not even. It's just not being a good human, man. It's like,
No, it's not.
why can't you make people feel welcome? How
Yeah.
hard it, how hard is it? How hard is it to say, I think immigration should be legal and it should be tamped down. Illegal immigration should be tamped down. But you know what? I'm still going to treat the people in front of me with respect. Like you can say both
Yeah.
those things. I think I do,
Oh, for
and
sure. You can
and it's
think, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think you can really think, okay, we need to like have an immigration process that is really regulated and well maintained, and see these videos of these people at the border and these families, these
yeah,
DACA children who are being impacted, and have your heart say, no, this isn't right, this is not
yeah,
what I mean,
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's wrong. Like it's
yeah,
really wrong. Just some of
yeah,
the stuff that's happening, and if you look at it, what it's doing is causing like these factions that are rising up, like,
yeah,
which is kind of cool to see, but also terrifying. I mean, you have
yeah,
all of these different nationalities now, like getting really aggressive and saying, like, you're not going to treat us like this. Like, you're not going to. use our bodies and our labor like willingly, but then act like we are scum and not worth anything. Like, no, we're gonna fight back, and it's like pushing this violence that's necessary now because of, dear old Donald Trump. But like,
Yeah,
what do you expect these people to do? You sure don't mind having immigrants in your country when they're doing jobs you don't want to do.
yeah,
But, as soon as you're mad about something, you want them all gone. And it's fair for them to hate you for it,
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
fair.
The other thing I
But
wanted to say is, I'm a beneficiary of liberal policies, and like the
mm,
reality is, I'm lucky and I'm grateful to have been arrested and convicted in the state of Oregon because
yeah.
they really in this state we really believe in rehabilitation and giving people second chances, and a lot of the judges believe, rather than throwing the
Yeah.
book at an individual arrested for drug crimes and petty crimes, should be given a second chance to go through drug rehabilitation and rebuild their lives. And that's a liberal policy. And here I am.
Yeah.
I robbed a bank. I committed a pretty serious crime. And in some states, I would be in jail for like 10 years, like 5 to 10,
Yeah.
just like that. I'd be in prison and they wouldn't even think
Hmm.
twice, but here I am in
Yeah. Yeah.
Oregon and I am being given the best. This is the best thing that's happened to me in so long. And I have struggled for so long with my mental health issues and substance abuse issues and homelessness, and I've needed this chance, and I'm being
Yeah.
given it, and I'm taking advantage of it, and I'm grateful for that liberal idea that I'm not a violent criminal. I don't deserve to be treated like a violent criminal or an animal and locked away. I mean, prison is a whole other issue that we could go into detail in on, but here I am in a rehab center with wonderful human beings who believe in my value, who believe that I
Yeah.
deserve to rebuild my life, and they're giving me that opportunity, and I'm grateful for it, man. So, like this, fuck a conservative ideal of just throw them all in prison and make them suffer. Like, there's so much, like, what is that about? Like, why do they feel the need to just throw the harshest penalties at people and just make people just your dirt, And then when you get out, you're still a felon and you've got to live with this shame over your this fucking sign over your head that says F, for felon, all the scarlet F on your fucking chest, and you can't
Yeah.
ever get a job, and it's just like, but you can become president. God damn.
Yeah. You can still vote for the stars, baby. Oh God.
um,
Yeah.
but
That's
like,
intense, David.
yeah, I'm really grateful. I'm grateful that this crime happened in Portland, and so
It's fascinating listening to you talk about it and realizing you're talking about a really redemptive, like, liberalism, like that's so redemptive, and their idea
yeah,
that a human being deserves value, inherent value, without, earning it. Like that is a very Christian concept.
yeah.
But
Oh,
the
it is.
conservatives,
Yeah,
having this idea that like, but it goes to show, I guess, maybe the danger of indoctrination and, legislating divinity and stuff, because conservatives, I mean, we are Christians, like there is such a fear of I mean, that is how they are successful, these churches, is by putting the fear of God and punishment for your crime. I mean, they
hmm.
are just treating people the way they believe God treats them. And
I hate that, but true.
which is
Yeah,
like, you're about
yeah,
to fail, you're a loser, you deserve the harshest punishment.
yeah,
And you're lucky if someone is kind
yeah,
enough to forgive
yeah,
you. I mean,
yeah,
it's just so interesting, because what you're talking about, this idea that like someone can go to prison but they haven't lost their worth, and they don't deserve, we shouldn't just incarcerate people for everything, like give them a chance to do better, to make, that's such a Christian concept.
yeah.
But it doesn't fly with Christians. It's just interesting. Like, the
Man,
dissonance there is interesting.
I've been thinking about God a lot in Christianity, and as I find myself moving closer to Christ, I also find myself just delineating between what I believe and what a lot of evangelical Christians in this country believe. And I really find the state of Christianity so disgusting right now. And
Yeah.
Donald Trump has a spiritual advisor right now.
Yo, she's
And she believes that, like God blesses you with material wealth, man. and they're so material oriented and just in love with money. And it's a flat out they co-opted the gospel and they turned it into their own prosperity and their own wealth and their own, and it's so
Den of
sick.
thieves. Yeah.
It's den of snakes, of vermin.
Hmm.
Fucking gross,
Dude,
man.
did you see when she prayed that like anyone who didn't agree with him that they would miscarry and lose their baby? Like out of her
God,
mind.
I'm so sick of,
Out of her
dude.
mind.
Something needs to happen, man. Because
Yeah.
the Jesus I believe in, man. He said, help the poor, help the widow, you know, help the ones, the underprivileged, you know. He said it and he did it and he lived it. He lived it.
Yeah.
He lived it. He shared his food with thousands of people who came to see him. He shared his words and his wisdom with, you know, Mary of Magdalene and Mary Magdalene. Um,
Yep.
you know, like he hung out with prostitutes. He lived on the street, man. He was a street wise motherfucker, and he had nothing to do. He had nothing to do with gaining material wealth. And these guys,
Yeah.
it is so sick, and I am just ready to start a revolution, man. Did you see those poems
Yeah.
I wrote about Luigi? Did you
I
see my?
loved him though.
I was like, I was just after I was. It was in one of
Eat
those
the
moments.
fucking rich.
Eat the rich, man. I'm just
Yeah.
that's. I think that honestly is the fight. I think there's a lot of discord in our country and a lot of arenas, so to speak, a lot of different battles going on. But the primary war, the war revolves around honestly the wealthy. It really is. And it is them taking advantage of all of they're fracturing us. They are purposefully dividing us and turning us against each other. We're fighting about stupid shit about,
Mhm.
fucking transgender bathrooms when they're just raping the entire world,
Mhm.
and and it's like we're fighting over stupid shit. And meanwhile, they just are
The rich
amassing
get richer.
they just
Hmm.
amassing more wealth, more resources, more land, more. It's so disgusting, and that's why I wrote those poems, man. I was like, maybe Luigi, people. One of my favorite lines from that poem was, talking heads on the TV say, "How could he just kill him, man?" People on the street saying, "Why just stop at one, man?"
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. Let's
It's true though.
go.
Yeah, suddenly they went from, not caring too much about children getting shot to
I
wanting to kill
know.
one rich
Oh,
CEO with all these
yeah.
gun laws. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
okay, you got to hit them where it's over
I know.
then.
Gonna get their
uh,
attention. Yeah.
totally. I mean, I will always say the only minority that I will ever hate is the very rich. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
they are actually the only dangerous minorities, is the very wealthy, because
Yeah. Yeah.
they are such a minority and they control the whole thing. I mean, all of
You,
them,
you
liberals
know,
and conservatives, are, controlled by money.
I don't know who I despise more though, the obscenely wealthy, the 0.001% of the world, or all
Hmm.
the false prophets who speak for them. I
Yeah.
like all the media figures who just the mouthpieces for the rich. I honestly don't
Yeah.
know who I despise more because the rich know what they're doing. The mouthpieces, I feel like they're just suckling off the teat, man. They're fucking just bottom
That's what, yeah.
feeders.
They're seeing an opportunity to attach themselves to this wealth and be like, maybe if I
Yeah,
sidle up to this guy, which
yeah,
is a really dangerous human instinct. I mean, that's why you have all those, that quote from the concentration camps. Like, first they came for these people. Like, we want to try and stay close to the bad guy, to the
yeah,
power. That's so human,
yeah,
but it's really awful. And eventually they'll come for you too, and no one will
yeah,
care because you've sold your soul to this thing. And yeah, it's intense. It's
yeah.
really crazy. And like, why is he putting tariffs on Canada? Like, bro, why are you rocking the boat with like one of our only allies, and like Canada? They're so peaceful, and like what are you why? Like, we're suddenly at
Well,
odds with everyone.
yeah. He's trying to mix things up. You know why he wants to annex Canada and Greenland?
Yes. I mean, he
Why?
said why. Because he wants the resources that they have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's happening? This is my guess. Global warming is happening. It is real. And in 50 years, North America, Northern Canada and Greenland are going to be melted as fuck, and that land is going to be the most valuable land on the planet. That would be my.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, you heard it here, folks.
It's
It
a,
just
it's
happened.
it's a resource grab. It is. It's a resource grab. And
Yeah.
if we own Canada and Greenland, I'm not joking. I really think a lot of that people are going to start moving north, man, and that land's going to be some of the most valuable land on the planet as the
Yeah, it's
planet
just a
heats up.
crazy, it's like he has like but he
I'm
has no
not.
desire to maintain harmony. Like I think it's more just like, dude, why are you burning all of our bridges with these other countries? Like you are
Yeah,
making you're destroying, it's the nationalism issue. Like
yeah, yeah,
you have to be globally minded. You cannot be a nationalist and expect America to maintain what it's always been, because America can does not thrive in nationalism. It will kill the American spirit, and it'll show us really quick that we're not the superpower we think we are if we don't have these
yeah.
people on our side. Um,
Man, I
yeah, it's fascinating,
it's fascinating. It's also just
scary.
scary, scary. Um,
Yeah,
I feel dread. You know,
yeah,
one of my good Jay, my ex-girlfriend, who we talked, and she doesn't generally involve herself with politics, but lately she can't help but be. We all can't help but be involved with
right.
what's going on in the world, and she was like, she was like, I never, because she never talks about politics. She hates politics, right?
Yeah,
And but she's been reading it and just kind of watching it, and she's like, Dave, I'm so sad. She's like, I feel like this is the end. She was crying.
oh,
I was like, oh my God. I was like, Jay, it does feel like that. You're not alone. Like, there's a lot of us that are watching this and are like, what the fuck comes next?
yeah.
Are we witnessing the end of American democracy? Because that's crazy.
That's what it feels like. It
Yeah,
feels like we are like, oh, we've all like been kind of like hyperbolic about fascism, but now I think we're seeing it. And
yeah.
it is scary. Like I think I kind of thought it was funny. Like, oh my God, this guy, look at how psycho he is. But like surely the checks and balances of our system will keep him in check. But no, he's creating this army of people around him who are going to dissolve the
Yeah.
system we have in place to keep that kind of power in check. And
Systematically,
it's
just yeah,
psycho. Like,
yeah.
why is Elon Musk like making governmental changes? This dude is not even a citizen of America.
I know.
He's an
Fuck,
immigrant from South Africa. Like,
fuck Elon Musk, dude. Fuck him. I hope someone Luigi's his ass. No joke.
yeah. I love you just saying someone Luigi his ass. It is now in action. Yeah, I love it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to bring up something real quick that I heard in an NA group the other day,
Hmm.
which is anonymous, so I'm not going to use names. But she was talking about her housing, and she was struggling with maintaining her housing. And she was like, if I lose my housing, she goes, I'm gonna go back to opioids. And I thought about what that like, just what that means. Like, that's a big statement. That has a lot of depth to it. These resources that we give people, that our taxpayer money goes to, right? And
Hmm.
people are like, we got to stop, we got to stop, all of these people from leeching off the system. We're
Yeah.
but like when in that group and I know this person and just watching her as she navigates her sobriety, like
Hmm.
like this is a good person, like she struggles with drug use, yes, and she hasn't, she's done crimes, but she's trying to put her life together, and the thing that's holding her together right now is her housing, and like I was like,
Which is
dude,
such a basic human right.
I know. And I was like, if we got to pay a couple extra dollars out of our pocket to ensure that the people around us, like if that's the price we got to pay, fucking, you know,
And
like,
also, it's not even, are we even paying that big of a price? Most of the taxpayer dollars are not going to these programs. That's such a cop out
yeah. Well,
that
a lot
people
of
say.
them
Like,
here in Portland, they are. I mean, a lot of our tax dollars are going to these housing
I mean, if you
programs.
look at the actual percentage, though, a lot of it goes to paying salaries
Yeah.
people. I mean, it's just an interesting argument because I hear it a lot. Like, I don't want my tax dollars going to this. Your tax dollars are going to a lot of people's salaries and programs that you don't benefit from in any way. The ones like, prison reform and abortion and housing and food stamps, that isn't this you're not paying tremendously into those programs. They're massively underfunded. A lot of I mean, when you hear a lot of the programs that
I
get
mean,
millions of dollars, I mean,
there's a lot of bureaucrat. I mean, well, I mean, what that does suggest is that there's a lot of bureaucratic, what's the word? Bloat, bureaucratic bloat.
yeah,
I think, unfortunately, a lot of these, and this is one thing that, efficiency does come into the equation. I think there
yeah,
needs to be a more efficient mechanisms for
yeah,
handling money in government. I absolutely do because there is a
yeah.
lot of there. I mean, bureaucratic bloat is a real thing.
Hmm.
Administrative bloat is a real thing. And unfortunately, you have a lot of people managing, with positions that don't necessarily need to exist. But nonetheless, all I know is I am happy to pay taxes if it means that is the difference between a person.
Totally,
You know, I can,
totally,
I'm happy to, man. I can handle that.
yeah,
if I'm gonna pay taxes, that's actually where I want my money to go, man.
yeah,
I want it to go to the needy, to the people who need just a basic, foundational structure to keep them from, devolving into drugs and crime. Like
yeah,
that's okay with me, man. I'm happy to pay
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I just think it is worth saying that it's not a significant part of your taxpayer dollars.
Yeah,
I wish more money would be, delineated to the appropriate places. A lot of the money that goes to housing actually goes to different things and not the actual people who are in need of housing. I mean, there's a massive shortage of funds. When you talk to the people who work in the housing situation, trying to help people get money. Like, I have a really good friend who lives in Louisiana who was working with one of these programs,
hmm
where they would work with women and children who are at risk of homelessness. And they, like, without any warning, the funding for their program was immediately terminated and they all had 30 days to find another job. And this program has been in place since 1990. And she did some good work and she was like crying. She's like, I love my clients. These are people who, like, really, really don't, some of them, have gotten to where they are because of just poor life choices, but a lot of them, it's just, they just need someone to help them get stable and then they'll thrive. And like,
yeah,
this, this thing just got cut, but then you read about, like, I just read, gosh, I can't even remember what it was, some program here in Melrose. They like gave, it was like, gosh, what was it? The Department of Public Works, I hope I don't get in trouble, but they they wanted to be the first, like, municipality to have an electric garbage truck. And so they spent like millions of dollars installing charging stations so that we could have electric garbage trucks. And because we just wanted to be the first. Meanwhile, there are people who are experiencing homelessness and, like,
yeah,
just stuff like that. Like, okay, that's the problem with money and how it's handled, is it's really easy to be like, I don't want my money going there. Well, they just spent, like,
yeah,
$5 million
yeah,
on, kind of showboating something
yeah,
and not
yeah,
actually helping citizens. And
yeah,
that's like, yeah, we need more oversight and, like,
yeah,
actual an auditing process of how this money is actually being spent.
yeah.
Because it's really easy to abuse government money.
It is. It
I mean,
is.
it's so easy. And I mean, can you blame people if you are working a government job and you can find a way to benefit more? I mean, it's human nature. I don't know. I don't know what the
Yeah.
solution is, but it's not, I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's that ridiculous that people get into these positions and then, see, well, if I do this, I can make a little more money here. I mean, that's human nature to try and always make it better for yourself. There's got to be systems that prevent it. We can't expect people to hold themselves accountable and
Well, I mean, we
I mean,
can to a
we
certain extent.
can,
Yeah. We
right?
should. We
Yeah,
should.
we should, but
Yeah.
it's just not practical.
Well, it's not
Like,
gonna. And the other thing that gets, is a private entity, a corporation, isn't going to be any less prone to corruption. I love this stupid argument that privatizing everything, and that's what Elon Musk and Donald Trump are trying to do is privatize the entire government. And if you think that they're going to be better managers than the government, I laugh at that because
Or like he hasn't exploited every loophole.
these guys, it's hilarious to me because corporations have shown that they will cut every corner. They will abuse every law to the maximum that they can. They will abuse their workers as they will stretch them as far as they can. And they have no. If you think that privatizing the government is going to somehow make it better, that's funny. That's funny. I agree. There needs to be more efficiency, but
Yeah.
privatization isn't a guarantee of better at all.
You know,
Um,
it's so funny. I was just reading how Donald Trump, his first wife, when she died, did you read about this? He had her buried on his golf course in 2022 because that way he could get a tax break by if he buried her there, he was able to claim that his golf course is also a cemetery, so he doesn't pay taxes on it because it's a cemetery. Like, this is the dude that you're trusting to be moral. Like,
I just
no,
I'm
that's
just
insane.
I'm just so disgusted by how much people's lives nowadays revolve around money.
Yeah,
Money influences so many of our decisions.
yeah.
Like, someone you love died and you're gonna make a decision based on tax. I mean, good God. Like, like it makes you feel crazy to think like am I crazy for thinking that like something should have sentimental value? Like beyond like not everything should
Yeah,
be so fucking equated, like a goddamn algorithm. Like, oh, A plus
yeah.
B equals C. My wife dies and I can claim a tax credit. Like like what
Yeah,
the
she's not going
fuck?
to be buried in a family plot or in anywhere,
Like
and it's all overgrown and
what kind
nasty.
what kind
Like,
of sick fucking society are we in, Sophie? Like,
yeah,
I feel like madness in a society like ours is a completely valid reaction, man. You should feel insane.
yeah,
If you don't feel
yeah.
insane right now, like wonder about you. Like, what's going on in your head?
Yeah.
If you're like thriving right now in our society, like there's something wrong with you. You might be the bad guy.
You know, it's funny. I was listening to this guy talk about how that's one of his biggest issues with Christians is he was like saying, it's really interesting talking to Christians right now because they're kind of excited because their whole religion is predicated on the world has to fall apart for Jesus to come. And so they are so stoked to see this. And he's like, it was just weird talking. He was talking to this Christian friend of his, and he was like, really like, yeah, this is what has to happen. And it tripped me out because I remember saying that. I remember feeling like that. Like, when people would be like, oh my God, Joe Biden's going to get elected. And I remember being like, yeah, but that means the end of the world is closer. Like, oh, what a weird way to approach um, people's tragedies. Like it was just interesting to hear him talk about it because I remember feeling like that. Like,
It's like
it is
wanting,
interesting.
it's like
Hmm.
wanting, like being excited for like a civil war.
Yeah,
Like it's all fun and games, but when the bodies start piling up and people you love
yeah,
start dying, you're just gonna sit back and you're gonna be like, like
mm,
that's when you're gonna be like, is this really what I wanted? You're gonna have doubts, but it'll be too fucking late, you dumb fuck. Like everybody loves dying in a bloodbath, and you're like, oh, it's the end, and you won't be happy, motherfucker. You'll be sad as shit. You'll be grieving everybody you just lost, and you'll be wondering why you ever believed that bullshit in the first place. I'm so sick of Christians, man. God damn, I hate Christians, and I am a Christian.
yeah.
I'm not one of them. I'm not like us, motherfucker. They are not like
They're
us.
not like us. They're not like us. Yeah, I don't like the nationalism, and yeah, it's such a weird mindset that makes us above everyone else and profits off of other people's worst tragedy. That's the thing that I think makes me so ashamed that I was ever a part of it is people were suffering and I wasn't moved by it because I could see how I would benefit. I benefit because Jesus is coming to get me and leaving you behind. What a weird way to enjoy suffering. Um, and to say it in this sort of like patronizing way, like, well, if you would just come to the conclusion I've come to, you could be spared. Like, I'm not being awful because you're making a choice to not accept the truth. Like, it's so gross and it's so embarrassing that I participated in it, but it's so fascinating to see it from this perspective now. Like, do you remember feeling like that? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
I
just
do.
wild. It's
Just
wild. You need to leave soon, right?
in about 15 minutes. We got time. There's something I was going to say. Oh, I was going to talk about mental health. How are you doing? How's your mental health?
It's been rough, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I do think that, I mean, it's really real. The weather does really affect me. Like,
Hmm.
I am not like biologically built for snow. And,
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
just like a real thing. Because like the guy I'm dating, he loves the snow. He loves the ice. Winter is like his happy place. And I'm like, how is that possible? Like, how do you love this season? Like,
Yeah.
I can enjoy the snow, but to be like stoked for winter, like, I think it must be like a DNA thing. Like,
Yeah.
I think it really is real. But also work, I think I'm just like realizing that when I first got divorced, all of and like the crazy push that I had to participate in to to make sure my life didn't fall apart, it
Hmm.
has fueled me for years now, but I'm kind of hitting a point where it's like not sustainable, working two jobs
Yeah.
and I'm really proud of myself, but I think I am experiencing quite a bit of burnout.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I mean I work 7 days a week and I have the privilege that of having salary jobs, which means the second job, I just need to make sure I accomplish what I need to. I don't clock in,
Hmm.
but I still work 7 days a week, and my kids,
Oh my goodness, Sophie.
uh,
Yeah. You might have to
yeah,
dial it
but I
down a
can't.
little.
I mean, but it is the truth. It's like it it is hard to afford to live,
Yeah.
and I'm living in the most expensive state in America.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the solution is, but it is really impacting me. And I mean, David, there's just so many things impacting my mental health. But part of it is just my children are still in this church, and
Yeah.
it's just an intense thing to watch them get more involved. And I think in a lot of ways to survive, I sort of checked out. Like I'm just not going to ask questions. I'm not going to think about it. There's nothing I can do about it, so I'm not going to participate in rumination. Um, but eventually you do have to reconcile with what's going on in our family,
Yeah.
our parents, and these conversations that have been coming up. It's like forcing me to really reflect and look at things and not just, I think I kind of have survived because I've been working so hard. It's protected me from having to really feel and think about what's actually going on in my personal life. And now that it's starting to sort of come up and be forced to deal with it, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I look at my life, I'm like, wow, I never could have predicted that I wouldn't have a family,
Yeah.
I mean, I know we technically, but I don't, I
Yeah.
can't, I have sisters biologically, but I don't have sisters. I don't
Oh.
have a relationship with them. I
Yeah.
mean, I still, Illy still has not told me she's pregnant. I've just heard updates from my kids. And,
Yeah.
you know, and even our parents, like this church really has fucking affected everything. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just thinking about this. Like I want to tell them about my life.
Yeah.
Like I want to talk about it and I want to be able to talk about it in a really honest way. Like,
Yeah.
tell them about these experiences I've had with dating and that I fell really in love last year and it devastated me and like can I tell you the things I've learned and this a
Yeah.
year later I've met someone else and it's a completely different it's different than any relationship I've ever had and what that's like I just want to tell them like let
I
me
know.
show you what I've learned and who I am
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah.
because they would always I know what they'll do they'll be like it's just they cannot see me through anything
Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
lens of the
The
Potter's
the
house and
Potter,
it'll
their little cult. Yeah. I
and
know.
it'll skew everything it'll
Yeah.
skew how they perceive me they won't be interested in what I'm saying
I know. I know. Isn't it
they won't
horrifying?
it's but it's also so lonely because it's like
I
I want to
know,
tell
Sophie.
you
I'm
like
so
you would
sorry.
be
I'm
so
so
proud of
sorry.
me and
I
like
know.
I was
I
telling
know.
dad like you would be proud of me if you would let yourself like God, I've learned so much. I've experienced some incredible things. I've experienced some awful things and but I couldn't even tell you because you would be like just ready to condemn me for it or to you're not they're not intrigued by me. I'm just a cautionary tale now, and it's so like I feel like such an orphan sometimes. Like,
I
I'm
know.
like, who do I talk to? I don't have a parent. Some people like
Yeah,
I just want to call my mom and tell her, or like ask for help, or like how do I do this? Like I can't do that because I don't want to hear your fucking doctrine. I don't want to hear this answer that everyone else in the Potter's house would give. Like
yeah,
I could tell you what the Potter's house would tell you, what you're going to tell me. I can come up with it myself. I know what it is. Like
yeah,
I want
yeah,
to have a human conversation about my human life that I'm living. Keep that shit away from me, but it's impossible. It's
yeah.
impossible. And so I feel just really like untethered, like I don't
Yeah,
belong to anyone. And it's
that's
sometimes
right.
last week it like hit me like I
Yeah,
belong to no one. And
yeah,
I'm forging my own path, but we're not supposed to do that. And so it's
no,
really painful.
yeah. It
It's
is.
so painful.
I'm
Yeah.
so, I'm very sorry, Soph. And, and just so you know, I do know that pain, for a long time.
Yes.
For a long time, that's what I thought too. I was like, I just remember thinking in my 20s, I've learned so much about life. And
Mm.
it's exciting, right? Like
Yeah.
when I learned that like, hey, gay people aren't going to hell and they're not terrible people. Like I wanted to be like tell you guys like I have some gay friends now. Did you know that? Like it's really cool. They're like really cool people, and I've learned so many things about them, and like they're really dope and they're fun to party with. And like just things like that, or that like I started reading up on Buddhism, and like I found that like a
Yeah.
lot of aspects of Buddhism are actually very like similar to Christianity, and and I'm excited about it. It's cool learning about this other religion and seeing similarities, and like being able to share those things. But you're right. Like when I was that age, if I had shared that with you guys, I knew exactly what the answer would be, and,
Yes.
and I knew that my parents and my sisters would look at me and just be like, oh, well, it's, that's nice, but, you know, and
They're
it's,
not, yeah, they're not curious. Like,
yeah, I know.
there's no curiosity. I know that I could talk and they wouldn't be like, wow, like, so what is that? They would be like, oh, we know what this is. And
Yeah,
we like waiting to tell me the answer. And like, I'm not trying,
yeah,
I'm not asking you a fucking question. I am
yeah,
telling you
yeah,
about my life and like how I've lived. And it's, yeah, like I have experienced some things that have like radically changed me. And just that feeling of like, are you even curious to learn anything about what
yeah,
I've gone through
yeah,
without like you're not you're not asking because you want to know. You're asking because
yeah,
you want to
yeah.
figure out how to bring me back
To
into the
bring
fold.
in,
Like,
yep, yeah.
mm,
You're doing that
like
little equation in your head where you just sneak in your little scriptures and your little words of wisdom that'll eventually
you're
get
just
you.
always better than me.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
everything. Like
yeah.
you're always going to see I will never be worth as much as I was worth to you when I was in the church, and that is crushing to me.
It's
It's
one of the
really
most
crushing.
it's one of the most frustrating. I wish our sisters and our parents could just understand how devastatingly lonely it feels, to just,
It's so
yeah,
lonely. That is it. It's like, especially, me, I was really, me and the girls, we were really close. And I was always sort of like better at instigating communication. And so I mean, even until I was divorced, like I would text the group chat the most because I've always been someone who really values connection and community. And like
mhm,
to have it gone just feels like, yeah, just like I'm living this life that you I want to talk about and I can't. And so it makes me feel like, yeah, like an orphan. And what a weird thing to feel like that when your family is very much alive.
yeah,
And just I'm experiencing this incredible thing without the people who know the entire context for my life. Like,
yeah,
but they don't know this context anymore. Like it's like so splintered. Like that was my life before, and now I have this new one, and the two aren't really, I don't know if they'll ever match up again. It's so
yeah,
weird.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I just
so,
feel really like,
well, I got your back. I got your back.
I
And I know.
know, and I got yours.
Thank you. I know. We just happen to be on the opposite sides of the country. It's it
God
kind of
damn, yeah.
it kind of sucks, because I do wish I could just be a part of your daily life. I'm sorry I'm not there.
Yeah. Oh, I know I've thought about this, because so many people have said you could just move back. Like, I can't. I can't.
Yeah, yeah,
As hard as this is, the way I've become myself here proximity is a huge issue. And I feel like I'm only able to be this version of myself because there is distance between
Yeah.
some of
That's,
this stuff, you
yeah.
know?
Sometimes you need that distance. You have to, in order to fully define yourself, you need to know who you are outside of them.
And yeah, I think when you have something that's so high control and so all inclusive and
Yeah.
consuming, like for a little while, I was really afraid that I would just go back to it because of the fear and pain of loneliness. And like now I know there's not a chance. I
Yeah.
have so much clarity. But I don't think I could handle the pressure that comes with being that close to those people.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
it would just be constant. And
Yeah.
I think it would make me a really angry person. And I
Yeah.
feel like I've become, you know, I like this version of me. I'm not ready
Yeah.
to alter it yet, or to even like do the work of, I'm at some point I'll have to like interact with those people. Like if my daughter gets married, that's going
Yeah.
to be intense. Like I'm going to
Yeah.
have to face a lot of these people for the first time, and I need to make sure I'm in a place where I'm not just like ready to go scorched earth, or where I feel small again. Like I will
Yeah.
never let myself be in the presence of Potter's House people where they could make me feel small. I need to
Yeah.
figure my shit out and know myself enough so that that cannot happen.
Isn't that, Sophie, that's such a big thing, and I think that's a product of trauma and being raised the way we were and the cult we were a part of. I have a particular reaction. I am acutely aware of when I feel like people are trying to make me feel less than, you
Yeah.
know, like I'm hyper aware. Like, when I get the feeling that someone has disdain for me or something,
Yeah.
it's one of the most aggravating, like, it triggers me, for lack of a better word.
Yep.
It triggers the fuck out of me. I'm like, because I think of all the times when I was like 20 and trying to navigate my life, and just the way people would talk to me and just belittle me and tear me down and make me feel so small. And even at 40, I still struggle sometimes with when I get that feeling. I'm just like, oh, I want to fucking strangle a motherfucker, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's that feeling of like, oh, you don't think I'm like, you think I'm dumb. Like,
Yeah,
or you see me as like a charity case, or you see me as just like
yeah,
you don't see me with any value, and nothing makes me feel more like, well, it's really dehumanizing, but also just this feeling of like, no, I don't need to ever try and justify my value to anyone. And as soon as you make me feel like I have to prove that I'm worth something, I don't want to be around you ever again for the rest of my life. Fuck off forever. Like I can't do it. I know at some point I'll have to interact with these people, but right now, I just think I would be like a menace to society if I had to. Like, I think I would embarrass my kids. I think I would bring dishonor to our father and our family. And I don't think
Uh,
it would go well because I can
yeah.
feel it. Like, as soon as I feel like someone, like, oh, like I can feel my, like, oh, you want to talk about what's fucked up? It's not helpful. I need to like reconcile some things internally before I
Yeah.
do that, or else it'll just prove them right. Um, but yeah, I can't do it.
Well, I got to get going.
Yep.
I'm so happy for you and your cranberry farmer.
Chris, Chris. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. We will have to talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
That's a whole nother discussion, but yeah.
sounds like it's going good so far. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah.
wait, I don't know.
It No, it
All right,
is. It's such,
okay.
we'll have to do a whole episode on realizing how maladapted you are to intimacy and love when you've been raised how we were. And so when it
Yeah.
comes to you kindly, you're like, what the fuck is this?
It's like that meme
And
where
it's a
it's
problem.
like that meme where they walk outside and they're like, "What is that? The sun?
The
What is that? What?"
butterfly. What is this bird? Yeah. No, it's so bad, David. It's been so fascinating, but
Yeah.
no, he's wonderful. Yeah, it's wonderful to have someone really like cherish me, but it's also very uncomfortable because I've never experienced it, and it turns out I can be a little bit of a bitch. I know it's shocking, but but we'll talk about it.
All right.
I do want to say, I think March 8th, we should release a special episode where I really tell my story because that's International Women's Day. And I think that's the day I want to tell my story.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Uh,
I'd love
and
to.
I think that'd be intense, but I think it's necessary. So, yeah,
Okay.
good luck with your appointment.
Yeah, thank you. All right. It's
Love
been good
you.
talking to you. Love you too. So talk to you next
Bye.
week. Bye.
All right. See ya.
Get in line and settle down. Get.
The number you dialed is not a working number. Please check the number and dial again.
Goodbye.